Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really can't believe we're here doing this stuff. But in any event, Mr. Chairman, I can only describe what we are doing today as sad, pathetic, useless, and totally unserious.
What an excellent way to describe the Republican Party.
It is sad because the United States Congress should be a place where we advance legislation that actually helps people. Instead, today it is being used as an arm of the Republican National Committee, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump campaign. The Rules Committee hearing room is being used for a campaign rally right now.
Yeah, folks, you know how Republicans love to do all and then complain about everything? Like, for instance, complaining about the border and then knocking down bipartisan border legislation because their maxi pad over his ear wearing demagogic cult leader wants to run on issues rather than solutions? Or what about their complete inaction on any substantive gun legislation, only to complain when there is a mass offing of life with military-grade rifles that the solution is more guns and not less? Or that when their presidential candidate is almost sent to meet the devil early via gunfire, that the real blame falls on the Democrats instead of the guns and the fact that they've riled up their rabid MAGA lapdogs for years and have already incited multiple instances of deadly political violence themselves? Well, today, House Republicans had a slightly different approach in that they called an emergency meeting to do all and then complain about everything. And I would say,
that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But I've had the misfortune of hearing Marjorie Taylor Greene talk.
And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrat socialist agenda.
Cool. But every now and then, folks, a true hero steps up to make Republicans look like the Trump ass-kissing party equivalent of the human centipede that they are. Holy crap, that is an incredibly apt analogy. And that hero is none other than the man who puts the govern in McGovern, Democratic Congressman from Massachusetts, Jim McGovern.
It's pathetic because it shows how afraid the Republican Party is of Kamala Harris.
And we'll dive more into his hilariously cathartic mockery of Republicans in his opening statement in a second, and trust me, it's fire. But first, a little context on this apparently completely unnecessary hearing. Don't you love paying taxes to Republicans for them to wipe their ass with and give tax breaks to corporations?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
So, the Republican-controlled House Rules Committee, which is about as aptly named as the, quote, rule of law party, held a shotgun meeting on Tuesday, which fortunately wasn't an AR-15 meeting, to take up a resolution condemning Vice President Harris, who is now, as you all know, the Democratic Party's presumptive presidential nominee, and Republicans are pissed.
You guys are melting down. You're calling her the border czar, a title Republicans gave her, by the way. And I should say for the record, she is Vice President Harris. The White House never called her that. The President did not call her that. But I understand your desire to make things up. This resolution reeks of desperation, and everyone can see why you're doing it, because you are afraid. It is useless because this is a simple resolution that is not an actual bill. If it passes, it will not become law. It will not go to the Senate. This is as useful as an RNC press release or a Trump Truth Social rant.
What Jim here doesn't understand is this is just what the people need. You see, folks, Republican voters in red states aren't worried about the cost of prescription drugs or good-paying jobs or being able to feed their kids, because those are all things that Joe Biden significantly improved on, and that means they physically can't be happy about them. No, folks, instead, what they send their representatives to Congress for is to bitch and moan about the fact that they don't have the freedom of speech to say, "Let's go, Brandon," anymore. It's an assault on democracy. Joe Biden stepping down is an AR-15 shot to the ear of their First Amendment rights. I asked my producer if that joke was too soon, but my producer is me, so I gave him the green light. But anyway, satire aside for as long as I can muster, crucially, Kamala Harris has secured the backing of enough delegates to win the nomination at next month's convention in Chicago. And as we all know all too well, nothing scares Republicans more than women and people of color. And Kamala Harris, and this is true, is both of those things. The only thing more terrifying to Republicans than the thought of a woman of color in power is not being able to access Grindr at the gay Super Bowl, also known as the RNC. And that is true. That is a real story of a bunch of faceless Grindr profiles at the RNC crashing the app and the CEO of the company calling it their Super Bowl. And I'm in no way saying that Matt Gaetz got obvious Botox to look good and hook up with closeted gay Republicans. That would be ridiculous, because clearly he got it to look younger and hook up with 17-year-olds.
One who's not coming back, and then the other part that you have, and the other part you have is one person who raised the issue. He's got an ethics complaint about sleeping with a 17-year-old.
But alas, I digress. Back to the point. On Monday, Representative Elise Stefanik, who is a Republican from New York, who has been one of former President Donald Trump's most fervent supporters, filed a resolution condemning the Biden administration and border czar, as you heard earlier, Harris, which for context, in 2021, Biden tapped Harris to lead an effort to address crossings at the southern border, and Republicans took this meeting as yet another moment to complain.
President Biden named Harris as the border czar. And with Harris at the helm, the Biden-Harris administration made good on their promise to systematically dismantle President Trump's secure border.
Right, Joe Biden and Commie Harris took a page right out of Gorbachev's book and tore down Trump's beautiful border wall. But thankfully, the hero of our story, Jim McGovern, wasn't having none of that nonsense. And he let a mother trucker know in hilarious fashion.
And it is completely unserious. You kidding me? How do we know this is unserious? We know because if Republicans were serious about the border and dealing with immigration, they would have joined us to do something about this problem. They've had plenty of chances, and they have done nothing, absolutely nothing. On day one in office, President Biden and Vice President Harris put forth a bill to create a fair and just immigration system, but Republicans refused to act. Fast forward to this year. President Biden and Vice President Harris worked across the aisle to put together a historic bipartisan immigration bill. But Trump told Republicans to kill it, and they did. It was a bill that conservative Republican senators said was really, really tough on the border. And Republicans killed it. They killed it because instead of solutions, they wanted resolutions attacking Trump's political rivals. But what they won't do is do anything about it. Make no mistake, this is a meaningless, feckless, slanderous resolution that won't help a single grieving family. It won't do a single thing to make our country safer. It won't reduce our deficit or strengthen our border. It won't create a logical and humane immigration system. This is about one thing. We are here for one reason. House Republicans want a chance to bash someone they are afraid of, so they can demonstrate allegiance to their dear leader. And to top it all off, this is an emergency meeting. You heard that right, everybody. This is an emergency. Not an emergency meeting to fix the border, but an emergency meeting to bash Kamala Harris. That's the emergency. Are you kidding me? The emergency is that Donald Trump is losing and they're in a panic. And he's so unpopular that they need a meaningless resolution to try to prop him up. Now, I get why he's unpopular. Maybe they should call on him to step aside, considering how rambling and unfocused and boring he's become. He's the oldest presidential nominee in history. And I'm hearing from a lot of people he should step down. They're afraid. They are not fit to govern. Instead of serious legislation, we get a series of bad Fox News sound bites. And again, this is a sad, pathetic, useless, and totally unserious resolution. And let the record show that Republicans rejected a bipartisan border security deal so they could offer one meaningless resolution after another to complain about a problem that they refused to solve. And with that, I yield back.